3. Healthcare professionals fulfill professional duties. Healthcare professionals shall fulfill their professional duties and they must do so without a hint of religious bias or they must find another job. That includes fundamentalist pharmacists that turn away rape victims from Plan B, which is morning after pill emergency contraception. 4. No religious bias in land use or employment. There shall be no bias in land use planning or environmental law or employment law based on religion or lack thereof. 5. No bias in marriage law. Marriage can be defined by religious congregations howsoever they choose within their own services, but marriage under American law shall have no bias whatsoever. 6. Autonomy for end-of-life choices. When facing end-of-life decisions, all Americans shall be guaranteed control over their own bodies without being thwarted by a religious bias. 7. No religious bias in school. America's youth shall never be subjected to bias in education. If there is one penny of government funds, there can't be one iota of religious bias. 8. Congress shall include secular Americans. The composition of Congress and legislature shall include secular Americans, and there shall be no bias against secular candidates. 9. Children protected from religious abuse. There shall be one consistent standard pertaining to the health and welfare of children, regardless of a child's parents, school, or child care center. They are all human beings that deserve human rights and protection. And 10. Medical and scientific innovation shall be dedicated to health and advancement. Medical, technical, and science innovations shall be dedicated to the health and advancement of our fellow citizens and must never be impeded by religious bias.
That's the vision, and maybe I could just add, there's a strategy behind the vision. A couple points. One, when we and sometimes religious people talk about problems with church-state separation, usually there's two examples that people have right on the tip of their tongue. One is women's reproductive issues, and the other is discrimination based on sexual orientation, like marriage equality and so forth. And those are two very, very important issues. Now, I lobbied for 2 years as executive director of Secular Coalition for America, and as you mentioned, I lobbied for a state bar association, that is lawyers, for a couple of years as well, in addition to my 10 years service in the legislature. And the thing is I know from all that experience that there are, I describe them as aircraft carriers. There's huge organizations, Human Rights Campaign on equality for gay people, and I'm glad there is. And there's Planned Parenthood and NARAL for women's reproductive issues. So when we voice those couple issues as secular Americans, the challenge is that it's kind of like a little minnow compared to the aircraft carrier. People just don't notice us, out there. We need to show something more. And what the 10-point vision does is say, hey, this covers the waterfront. This is pervasive in American life. And a lot of even our own people aren't aware. In chapter 3 of my book, I give example after example. Every one of these 10 points, I show victims, real live people who've been harmed in each one of these 10 areas. And that leads me to another part of the strategy, is these are all human impact. They're all laws, by the way. They're not just attitudes. They're either laws or government policies. It's bad enough if somebody has a bias against lack of religion or what have you just on the street. But I'm talking about every one of these is a law, and every one of these has a victim. Now, that specifically means it doesn't include, like you mentioned about the courthouse law and the 10 Commandments and the Satanists and that stuff. As a lawyer, I am completely against having any sort of religious symbolism involved with government. So if it were up to me, if I were a judge, all that stuff would be gone in a heartbeat. But that's talking as a lawyer. Talking as a politician, we got to come up with these human impact stories that explain to people, including religious people, many of whom could be sympathetic, that, oh, yeah, that is bad. A child died in a child care center where they didn't have to obey the health and safety laws because they're religious child care. That's bonkers. And most people have never heard of that. They never knew that was even possible. So having these examples at the ready help us humanize it. And that leads to the next point about it. We have an image problem. We have an image problem as sort of argumentative, smarter than thou. We think we're the coolest on the block. We're way brainier than you. And I think strategically that closes the door. That is, there's a lot of these religious people and a lot of people who are kind of like us, that is secular, but they aren't secular activists, who would be with us, but we kind of turn them off by the smarter than thou thing. Whereas if we say, hey, we really care about what happened to this little girl. This little girl is not an atheist little girl. She's just a little girl. And she happened to die in a faith healing home, and our heart goes out to this child. That's the kind of thing that I think puts them on the defensive. When we're there defending children and senior citizens at the end of life, it's hard to just say, oh, look at those mean, angry atheists. You know, we're saying, no, we're here for compassion. We're here for justice. Will you please join us? I think that's a way to really help address it.
Thank you very much. And that's all I had, so I'll pass it back over to Joe.
Hey, Dan, you there?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? What question do you have for Sean Faircloth?
Two things. One, I was just curious, Sean, what prompted you to leave the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Secularity USA? Were there limitations with the Richard Dawkins Foundation that caused you to start a new foundation?
Well, Richard Dawkins is helping this project with an appearance in the United States, but the focus of this project, and I encourage people to go to that, by the way, it's in Iowa in April. But the focus of this project, Secularity USA, is specifically American. We're going to have people like Adam Savage involved coming in 2015 to help out with this project. And the image that we're projecting is one where we move forward to say to our fellow Americans, here's what we want to see as a change in American society. And so Richard Dawkins Foundation is sort of staying or going to focus more on sort of a straight science type of program, and maybe allowing him to kind of express his international atheism, however you want to phrase that. But this project in the 501c3 that I'm president of would be focused on public policy, secular government, those issues. So they're kind of like, whatever you want to say, concentric circles. There's significant overlap, but it's a distinct mission.
Great, thanks. One other question. When you were talking about the religious right fighting us on the First Amendment, I was just wondering, well, one of the arguments that's brought up a lot is that the First Amendment is designed to keep the government out of the church, not the other way around. I know that's not fundamentally true, but how do we combat those arguments?
Well, the Constitution says no establishment of religion. And certainly when you look at the decisions of the Supreme Court in the mid-20th century, it's clear, and I think it's correct, certainly consistent with the values of Jefferson and the values of James Madison, the primary author of the Constitution, that no establishment means no establishment. We're not going to have any religion in government. These people, it's interesting, I write about this, I think it's in chapter 2 of my book. I go through a very concise summary of viewpoints of not just the founders, but some of the major figures in American history. And it's ironic how absolutely adamant they were about keeping religion out of government. Frankly, going so far that I question whether Thomas Jefferson could get elected to Congress today, because he's so, what some people today might describe as extreme. You know, he takes a knife to the Bible. Think about it. You know, he literally physically takes a knife to the Bible and cuts out all miracles. Now, Jefferson's point was, he said, well, I like the philosophical viewpoint of, you know, the positive stuff that's said in the Gospels, and I like that too. But problem, of course, is when Jefferson gets done cutting out the miracles and the negative stuff, you really have a short volume.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. Dan,
Thank you, Sean.
Oh, sorry, Dan. Dan, you got anything else, or are you good?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming by, man. I really do appreciate it, man. Good questions.
you might want to take up selling used cars. But
right, yeah, very positive. Although here's what I'd say on that topic. You mentioned it a couple times. To me, Robert Kennedy was a politician, and he got FBI reports every day that he was going to get shot and killed, and he ultimately was. And he was a politician. He was a lawyer. And people decide what it means to be a lawyer, a politician, or for that matter, a car salesman. I'm sure there are, honest car salesmen out there. Any profession, you can do something that is nefarious or evil, or you can do something boring and no impact, or you can do something really positive. And I hope your listeners will actually consider becoming lobbyists, consider becoming lawyers, consider becoming politicians, because if you believe in high ideals, you can make those jobs turn into something really noble, if that's what you want to do.
let me get just one thing. And Sean,
Yeah.
I'm just playing with you. And just to be clear, if anyone out there uses you as the example, then you are absolutely right. You are definitely an example that shows that the stereotypes of politicians, lawyers, on and on and on, are not correct in any way. You're definitely doing the honorable thing. You're one of the most honest people I've seen through your writings and through what you say, and I applaud you for everything you've done. So thanks.
Well, thank you. And I'm not saying
Absolutely.
they're wrong about the stereotype. I mean, some dishonest
Well, in your
politicians
case,
out
they
there.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, there's dishonest politicians. But I'm just saying, I hope that your listeners, maybe there's some young people out there who might say to themselves, hey, I'm going to get involved and do the right thing, because you can.
Absolutely.
And one more question before you leave is: Are you doing anything with maybe like local representatives in each state for Secularity USA?
Yes, I should have brought that up. Thank you for mentioning it.
Go ahead. You can
what
expand
we're-
on that real quick.
We're looking for is state directors. So if people are interested, one, of course, we need contributions. We need volunteers.
Mhm.
And on the volunteering side, there's two aspects. One is we have national committees, so people have tech skills, marketing skills, volunteer organizing, phone banking skills. There's a huge number of jobs. You got a skill, there's a place to do it, especially if your skill is just willingness to work, willingness to put in time. And we have national committees and lots of opportunities. You can check that out, on our website and look at our volunteer page there. Similarly, at the state level, we're going to look for state directors, state people who run our database, state people who help run phone banks. So each state's going to have a set of leaders. And there may be among your listeners someone say, hey, I live in Nevada, I'm eager to lead. I live in Georgia, I'm eager to lead. Because this is a 50-state proposition. When you mention Iowa, Iowa's just the springboard. It's just the location. What we're talking about is a national effort.
Sean, again, thank you very much, and we're going to close down the show down here in a few minutes. But again, thank you very much, sir, and I'll contact you and get some more information off you, and then we'll
Perfect.
follow up. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thumbs up in the chat for Sean here. Thumbs up. Let's see those thumbs up for Sean. Thank you very much, sir.
Have a great night.
You
Bye-bye.
too, sir. Thank you.